Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
And what's it gonna do?
It doesn't matter how you're doing. Woo! Wheeling, dealing, limousine like jet flying.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Would you please shut the hell up?
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
The cream will rise to the top. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the human rubble.
What up, what up? Welcome to episode 37 of Keep the Kayfabe. I'm Mike, sitting here with my boys, ready to talk some wrestling. Business is really picking up in AEW as they lead up to Blood and Guts in these next coming weekends. But we did have a big pay-per-view this weekend, Impact Rebellion. Lots of moving parts. But before we get to all of that good stuff, let's introduce the boys real quick. Up in Glendale, someone who keeps it regal, Steve Grobschmidt. How are you, Grabby?
Enough is enough, and it's time for a change.
Who's that again? That's a Hurricane?
That's Owen Hart, isn't it?
It's Owen Hart.
Oh, Owen, okay.
Oh,
Nice.
very nice.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah.
I got to pull those out from time to time.
And you did impersonate his voice quite well, Steve. I
appreciate you saying that because I didn't try all that hard. But
Exactly. He has one of those voices that is like, it's imitatable, but only he can really do it perfectly, of course,
Right.
you know? And that's a nice one, too, because we're going to be covering the dark side of the ring in these upcoming weeks. So stay tuned for that. Everybody's favorite show.
When's that start?
May 8th. And we're going to be
Okay.
doing a review show or a preview show next week. So
Cool.
something to look forward to. I seriously can't wait. Let's cruise down the Bayview real quick. Talk to my guy, someone who keeps it freshly squeezed, Matt Michelson. How are you, Matt?
Join the Dark Order.
Deep cut.
yeah.
Deep.
I'd probably join. I don't know if I buy a t-shirt, but I think that would be joining if you did buy a t-shirt.
Well, I would say if you're on the fence about joining, clearly you haven't been on Instagram today. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Maybe we can get our intern to post that. Keep the listeners updated to see what's going on with the Dark Order. I'm only there if Ty Conti's there, and we'll get to her a little later.
Oh,
Let-
yeah.
Let's stay down in Bayview. Talk to my guy. Oh my God! It's Charlie Michael.
Just when you think you know the answers, I change the questions.
Nicely done.
Big shout out to Roddy since I
man.
I got it taped his biography last night. I'm going to watch that one as soon as I can.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh,
I
yeah.
cannot wait
that's
to watch
right.
that.
I might
8
settle
weeks.
down with that later.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yep.
He's the man.
I was gonna do my Don Callis. By God, Kenny Omega.
Hey, you
He
just
was-
gave the people two. You
Yeah.
got to charge them now.
Yeah, he was excellent last night. dude.
75% of Keep the Kayfabe loves Don Callis.
Yeah,
Mhm.
dude, he was hilarious. Like he's hilarious, dude, because he's just the swarmiest.
Oh, he's so
heel
he's so
talker.
gross.
Oh, he's so good. You should have saw him last night. Fucking hilarious, dude.
The Oscars were on last night, but apparently
Yeah.
there was
Were
another
they?
show and somebody won Best of the Year. Don Callis, our favorite.
Oh, I love that guy, dude.
You guys are just teasing me.
Yeah, he's the best. You should have.
No, you're going to come around on him.
If
Did
you
I
watch,
tell-
if you watch any part of that match, you should watch the end of it when Kenny pins him. Don Callis like runs to the ring, does some kind of running, skipping jump. You would have thought he won the championship. It was so fucking funny, dude. That's why I text the group that Don Callis is the best, dude.
Oh,
so
God, I
fun.
can't wait.
He was jumping and hopping around. So fucking funny, dude. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
So I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again because it's a cautionary, or it's a life lesson for Matt. You're going to sit under the learning tree for a moment.
I'm
But
Learning tree.
go back a few years to NXT when Cass and Enzo were going strong. And I remember when I first started watching NXT, I hated them more than I loved
Oh,
NXT.
damn, really?
And I hated that, like it would make me angry.
Oh,
and then
I
I'd
love
see the
them.
fans getting into it and I'd be angry and I'd be like, how can they like this? This is the stupidest thing. And it was probably my least favorite thing next to Randy Orton at the time. And then all of a
hasn't
sudden
changed.
one week, I just was like, like I started quoting it as it was going, and I got into it, and then like all of a sudden, like one week I got it, and I thought it was hilarious, and then I was like going around saying you can't teach that, and like so I think there's gonna be that moment one day, hopefully while we're recording, when Matt gets it and loves it and embraces the magic that is Don Callis.
Yeah,
dude.
I got to give it to you, Steve. I think you're absolutely right. I think that day though, which may not be what you're thinking. I think that day is going to be when we see Don Callis finally get what's coming to him.
Oh
and
yeah,
gets a
for
good
sure.
old-fashioned ass
Yeah.
whooping.
There will be that day.
Oh yeah, I could see him flapping around and bumping around that ring like a champ.
It's gonna be
dude.
it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Somebody, Moxley, whoever it is, I don't know.
Because he's gonna get his comeuppance,
just
and that's
gonna
gonna be so funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
With a kendo stick, I hope.
That's
No,
the
wait,
best
those
thing
are
about
all
a
in
heel.
WWE.
Yeah, right. That's the best thing about like just a disgusting heel like that though, is there's gonna be a payoff one day.
Plus he's been bopping into like different podcasts and stuff for shows, and he just plays the arrogant dude so fucking well, dude. So good.
Everybody's saying this is Kenny's year. Arguably, is it Don Callis's year?
I think he could get manager of the year, in my opinion, dude. Over Heyman.
I think
Heyman hasn't done much in the last year. Well, no, never mind. I take that back. He has with
Reigns, but he hasn't really had to do much talking like he normally does.
Right.
I mean, getting the rub from AEW, he got his Impact, which apparently has been around for 20 years, which is amazing. And having the year that he is, more TV time that he has, and selling the way that he's selling, by God, how can you not love this guy, Matt? God damn it!
Like I
so
said,
good, dude.
Like I said, it'll come. But rather than let you guys continue to torment me about this, I'm going to pivot a little bit, and we'll talk about the match more. So for those of our listeners who don't really follow Impact Wrestling that closely, and maybe don't even follow AEW that closely, Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion, had a match on this past weekend's Impact Rebellion pay-per-view, like we mentioned, against Rich Swann, who at the time was the Impact World Champion.
And TNA.
But in a amazing twist, yes, thank you, Charlie, and TNA, 2 belts. But this past weekend, Kenny Omega ended up getting the upset. Well, some people might call it an upset. I think it was kind of a given.
Yeah, it was a gimme.
But we saw Kenny Omega beat Rich Swann, and he's now holding all the belts from Impact and the World Championship from AEW.
And the AAA
weekend. One thing I haven't seen the match yet. I do need to go back and watch it, but I've listened to a couple other podcasts about it. And before we started recording, Charlie was talking a little bit about Figure 4 Online, Brian Alvarez's podcast. I did listen to that one earlier today, and a couple others as well. My understanding is Rich Swann was like gassed.
Yeah, they said that. I didn't see it.
In the match. Yeah, and I haven't seen it.
I never wrestled, so I don't know. Yeah.
Right. And so I haven't seen it either. But I've heard kind of mixed messages. Like he may have been worn out, or he may have taken a bump that
he did a neck thing that might have screwed his neck up.
That's a possibility.
Yep.
But I think regardless of that, the real takeaway is Kenny Omega still carried this match to the point where you didn't even, I mean, you saw it, but it did not spoil the match.
No.
So definitely something I want to go back and see, even knowing that there were a couple botches. And Rich Swann was kind of struggling for the second half of the match. My understanding is the last few minutes were incredible. So
there's a ref bump happened, the match got really interesting after that ref bump. Because even though Kenny and him did a good job suckering me in, I was like, oh, maybe Kenny might not win the belt tonight after the ref bump and all this that happened. But then I thought about it. I'm like, they wouldn't bring Mauro Ranallo in for Kenny to lose, to call the match to lose. He's going to be there for the historic match. But it was a good match. It wasn't the greatest match I've seen, but it was a really good match.
Awesome. How was Mauro on the mic last night, Charlie?
It's a shame that NXT let him. Once you hear him on that mic again, it's a shame, dude.
I heard a bunch of snippets, and he was just so spot on. It was like he's
so good, dude.
Yeah, it was like he's been working with them for years.
Yeah, he did his research. He knew the moves that Kenny and those guys. He knew the stories. He just did his style. It's That's it. WWE should be ashamed that they ran that man out of there. They
Yeah.
ran
Was,
him out of there.
Was Don Callis on the mic with Morrow
No.
during the match at all?
Nope, it
With
was
Morrow?
just Striker and D'Lo.
Nice.
Yep.
Wait, D'Lo
Well,
Brown
that
was
had to
one
been
of the
a
commentators for him.
Yeah, yep. For
Oh,
for
man.
TNA. Yeah,
Now I have to
love
watch.
that.
yep. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's too bad you can't hear him wiggle his head. 'cause
Yeah,
that-
exactly.
That would keep me.
You probably can. You
Yeah, if
probably
you
can.
think about it. Yeah.
That had to have been a breath of fresh air hearing Morrow
Oh,
back on
yeah.
the mic.
So that's why I sent that text. I'm like, man, it's so good to hear him calling a match
Yeah.
again, dude.
He's
So
such a-
good.
He's just so unique and
Yeah,
awesome.
he just brings a whole different feel to everything, you know. It's just like, wow. So good.
I always thought he was NXT's most valuable player.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. You know, they try to rant and rave about the new guys that they have. You know, oh, they're doing good. They're pretty good, but they're
solid. They're not.
yeah,
great.
they're not.
Yeah.
When you get Morrow, it takes him to the next level. They're good, but if he was there, it takes it to the next level.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, he is what really captured me and
Totally.
gathered the retention of my viewership to NXT, because
Yep.
not only was the lineup and roster stacked like with unbelievable wrestling, but he just elevated him, and it's just such a big responsibility. And actually, I was just kind of doing some work and letting my phone go to, I don't know, the next video. And I knew he was with UFC announcing some fights, but like a Kembo Slice match came on with who's the other big Tank Abbott, and he announced that fight.
Yeah, when he
And
did
I'm like, I'm not even a big
Wow.
I'm not even a big UFC guy, but I picked up my phone and I watched that entire thing. So
Oh yeah,
I
just
mean,
for him, yeah.
Morrow is magic, man.
Oh
He
yeah,
just
just
something about him.
Yep, because I think some of the best, even the matches don't even have to be that good. But if you have an entertaining announcing crew, dude, it just makes a huge
That's-
difference. 'Cause,
Yeah.
You know?
Otherwise, it's like the music to the yeah.
Oh, totally.
It's yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Plus-
And I know there's some people out there who strangely, for whatever reason, don't like Mauro Ranallo. And I think part of it's because of the overabundance
Yeah,
of pop culture
The
references.
and the
of the-
bombastic gets too much to them. Or
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to their credit, I think some of it is a little bit scripted and forced feeling. But at the same time, I mean, you can't deny the excitement he brings to
Mhm.
the action.
Oh yeah,
Who
I
knows?
like
So
the
much
good
to
thing
it.
about it too. He didn't even do a Mamma Mia, which was awesome. He didn't even have
Oh,
to.
nice.
I didn't need to.
Didn't have to go to a signature move to get.
You know-
get
Saving
over.
it.
Yep.
Since we're kind of on the subject of announcing, I mean, I'm a little tangent. I know we're going to talk about AEW at some point, but one of the things that I hate that announcers do, and it's usually a WWE thing, but I like it just maybe I just noticed it, but AEW, it happened way too often from guys like even Shivani, who I really like, is that when they're like, and that'll do it, or and we have a new champion. And when they say that during a
Yeah.
pinfall, you 99% know that they're gonna kick out because
Oh yeah.
and it takes me out of the like that Ty Conti match. Again, I'm not gonna go into it too much, but I was
We can
getting
go
really
there.
into that match and really like I mean that match I had no idea who was gonna win the match. So that was like that. But every time he was like, and then we're gonna have a new champion, it took me out of the moment that okay, she's gonna kick out. Like
Yep.
I hate when announcers do that, or at least do it when you say, and that'll do it, and then they actually pin them, like so that you know, versus like almost 100%. It's a give of what's going to happen. I mean, NXT or WWE does it all the time, and I noticed that Corey Graves has gotten really bad at it.
Oh yeah. It's like
I
a
think
crutch.
Vince, when he was an announcer, was like the first to really do that, exaggerated, where he's like,
Mhm.
and you know, 1, 2, 3, oh, and then he'd back
New
away from it.
champion. No.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that, Steve, but yeah, you covered it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it seemed a good time with Morrow because he's like one of the gold standards. It's just, and I don't think he ever does that, at least that I can remember.
Vince, yeah, he's the one that kind of wore that out as far as 1, 2, new champion. No. But yeah, speaking of breaths of fresh air, let's transfer over to AEW and talk about that Ty Conti match. She versus Sheeta this last Wednesday. And we saw a great piece of information that AEW reached 1.2 million viewers in this match. I think it was like the third quarter or however they break it down, got the highest viewership from the demographic of 18 to 49 or something
Yeah,
like that. Sorry,
that's
guys,
great.
I'm not on the exacts on that. But I mean, that just shows Ty Conti is something special. I mean, I am a Ty Conti fan. I brought it up many times. I don't want this to be just a Ty Conti love fest, but I freaking love this girl. She's one of my favorite wrestlers. She is just so fun to watch. I love her intensity. She trains hard. And I mean, she's going to hold the belt someday. And she got all of her stuff in. It wasn't like, you know, a 5-star match. There was a little bit of sluggishness, a little miscommunications, but hey, I mean, this is a Brazilian judo chick versus a Japanese chick. Both of them, like, English is not their primary language, but they can go on TV, capture those kinds of ratings, and communicate to the crowd that this is something special and for women's wrestling. I thought that was a great achievement. Yeah, Sheeta did take the belt and Britt Baker did come out later, but gotta give respect where respect is due, and hats off to Ty Conti. And if you don't follow her on Instagram yet, check her out. It'll make your day a lot better.
For sure. Along with certain members of the Dark Order, as we mentioned earlier. But yeah, Mike, I'm totally on board with you. Like, this match, I hear nothing but good things about it. Granted, yeah, there was a little bit of slop to it, but I feel like Ty Conti's still up and coming, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, I will give her credit. I think ever since seeing her in NXT back in the day, she has improved astronomically, especially over the last, I would say, 6 to 12 months even. We've seen her come from, you know, sort of the women's undercard to now she's in a title match, main eventing Dynamite.
She's still so young, too.
Yeah.
I think she's only like 24, maybe?
Something like that. I'd have to double check.
Very
but
young.
I think that's about right. Yeah. But
doesn't-
yeah, this was a great sign for the women's division in AEW. I know, you know, if you had asked a year ago if the women's division in AEW stacks up against other promotions, the answer was an emphatic no. But with the recent improvement we've seen from Ty Conti, some of the other wrestlers in the division, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, you know, you could name several others as well. The AEW's women's division is good now. And it's only going to get better at this point. I think they finally locked in a formula and a certain type of wrestler that really works well for their promotion.
I got in a little debate. Well, it wasn't much, but in that Busted Open Nation, because somebody posed the question, AEW versus WWE. I think, the distinction I made was I didn't include NXT in the conversation because I'm only recently starting to watch it again. But it was, what's a better division, AEW's women's division or the main roster WWE? And it's like, I don't care that WWE has more talent, because they do. I mean, the wrestlers are over. They do such awful storyline writing with them that I find AEW. I think the AEW's women's division has eclipsed the main roster WWE, because they got the foundations of Tay Conti, Sheeta, Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, like really good foundation now, and they tell better stories. It's like Tay Conti's story has been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks as she climbed up to #1 contender, and the Britt Baker story going along with it, and then of course the perfect, like, Tay Conti barely loses and Britt Baker's out there pointing now she should be #1. They've just built this up so well. Versus, I mean, I don't know if Charlie's been watching his favorite Monday night show, but like this storyline, I just was reading about it, or like Nia Jax, like the big thing is that she slips and falls every week, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, how is that a like that just seems like Vince with his stupid humor of like people falling in pools and that. It's like
goofy.
and Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke and like the same people, like in the same matches week after week. There's just, it's nothing. And I think AEW, kudos to them that nobody really thought when they kicked off their show that their women's division was anything special, but they've just, in a year and a half, they've made it like actually pretty darn good.
So Mike, you had mentioned something about the ratings draw for Tay Conti in that final quarter hour. So besides the AEW women's division, we've talked about how great it is and how good it's become. We're now seeing AEW Dynamite 2 weeks in a row break 1 million in the ratings. And, you know, we saw last week 1.2 million, which was incredible. And I think a lot of us thought it was going to drop off after that. And it did a little bit, but they're still hovering around 1.1 million, which is incredible. So
you wait till this week.
Yeah. So
gonna pop a big rating this week.
For sure. I have no doubt. So, but given this recent jump and now kind of starting to show some consistency. I guess I'm curious, what do you guys think is contributing to that? Part of me is thinking now that they're running unopposed on Wednesday nights, I think a lot of people who were torn between NXT and AEW and maybe hovered on NXT a little bit more now have the ability to watch both. So it's just a little bit of the same audience that would watch
Oh,
one or
totally.
the other.
Yeah.
Charlie, you think that's the case?
Oh yeah, it's totally the people who were, like you said, who were torn. There's some people who are just diehard WWE NXT that are going to watch, but you have those people that are torn. They finally have a chance to watch so consistently. They should do a million a week. I suspect they should.
Mhm.
You know, because they keep an interesting show. They advertise early what's going to be on the show for next week, so they get you there. You know, like that's a thing a lot of guys complain about Raw. It's like in SmackDown, you don't know who's going to wrestle. You know,
Right.
You have to, so you have to watch it to figure out who's wrestling. Like AEW, they tell you in advance. You already know the card for next week's in advance. You know,
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, they do a really good job at promoting these other shows too that are TNT
Yeah.
has just kind of got a good diversity. I mean, they do NBA basketball, which is good.
yeah,
I mean, it's just kind of a good night, maybe. I guess I don't really know a whole lot about TV and like all the specs, but you're not going up against Monday Night Football. It's hump day. You want to see something different. It's not the weekend. Like Friday Night SmackDown, I think that's horrible for WWE wrestling. I don't know anybody who's going to stay home and watch that. Monday night when football
Jeez.
comes back on, nobody's going to be really watching.
Oh no,
I don't know. And yeah, now that NXT fans don't have to choose, I think they're going to turn it on.
Yeah, I think you're like you said, man. I think some of the people who had to make a choice now they don't have to make a choice, so they can fall over and watch. You know, like your girl from Busted Open, Steve. What's her name? The little girl.
I'm not answering that because it's not my girl.
Izzy?
Izzy, yeah, Izzy, yeah, it's fucking stupid Izzy, yeah.
You can't talk about her like that. She's a kid, therefore she can't be criticized.
She's done more than you had at 14. Okay.
Well, okay, sure.
Okay, sure. But I wasn't a weirdo geek following grown wrestling shows around at 14. Having my parents take me to they weren't taking my parents weren't taking me to shows.
Let's see if she's making $1 million a year like all of us.
Yeah,
are.
exactly.
Circling back to what we were just talking about before we get sued for slander or something like that.
Slander.
Child abuse. Yeah.
Or hurt feelings.
Yeah, exactly. It's the worst thing you can do.
Too funny.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was too funny was MJF and Chris Jericho cutting promos on one another on this last week's AEW. We saw JR sit down with the Pinnacle, and MJF, we can't say enough how good he is. This time, Wardlow even got into the mix a little bit, calling out Chris Jericho.
I like that they own that. Yeah, I like that they
Mhm.
own that. Jericho. I mean, Jericho had one of the most amazing promos last week, but he did flub and it almost leaves you wondering maybe that was on purpose so Wardlow could come back this week. It probably wasn't. I think he effed up, but Wardlow jumped on it. It was great.
And this is a tell that Chris Jericho is on board with Wardlow. He's like, if Chris Jericho is allowing Wardlow to say something to him, I think he's kind of getting Chris Jericho's blessing. So he's on track, Wardlow. Inner Circle did respond in the ring with Shivani. Jake Hagar cut a promo back on Pinnacle. Jericho did what he did, but if I would choose who would win this promo battle, I gotta give it to Pinnacle. MJF is just too damn good. And Jericho just kind of still is giving it like the rock star, like, come on, everybody, yeah! Like kind of getting the crowd revved up. Great. But as far as tactical, MJF won this battle for me. Did you get a chance to see that, Steve? Did you get that vibe, or what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I think this is just a treat for wrestling fans because you got like the legend that's doing some of his best work. You got the 5-year-old, 24-year-old guy that
the young lion
already is doing work that most wrestlers will never get to. It's just and it's I mean, say what you want about Chris Jericho. he does an awesome job throughout his latter part of his career, putting over younger talent. I mean, going back to when he put over CM Punk at WrestleMania, Fandango, like he's not afraid to put people over. I mean, he lost to Fandango at WrestleMania, if you guys remember that. So, and I think this whole, he realizes at this point in his career, his whole point is to put over the next generation, and it's just kind of laying out the red carpet for MJF, who's just going nuts with it. Yeah, and of course the future Hall of Famer in the making, Wardlow.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of thing that pisses me off about Chris Jericho recently, but you got, like, he is always going to be one of my all-time favorite wrestlers because of his work ethic, and he loves the business so much. We just heard it in the Broken Skulls Ranch, as we brought up before, just how much these two love the business, and Jericho is, by far one of the legends in the business. So I'm happy the service that he's doing for us all. Like you said, Steve, it's a treat to watch.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. And I imagine this, what are they calling it?
Hang on, folks. We paused this broadcast to bring you a very special moment. And I think for our longtime listeners, you know what that means. It's now time for Charlie's Corner. Charlie, we're seeing faces being made. What's going on? It's Monday night. Let's hear it.
I'm sure everybody knows the rumors. Remember last week, they suspended Charlotte Flair for like $100,000 and all this for she's suspended. All this, and she's wrestling tonight. She's back wrestling.
Did they even explain it?
No, I don't know. Yeah, I can't wait to hear what happened with this. She got suspended for jumping a ref, $100,000 fine, and suspended indefinitely, and she's back on Monday Wrestling.
Oh my God.
What the fuck, dude? This makes no sense, dude.
I don't know. I mean, obviously we could be accused of being overly negative on WWE, but
is their HR department?
What the hell is going on with Raw? Raw seems like it's like never been written worse than any show in the history of wrestling.
It's just
like it is terrible.
Well, just the business itself. It's just like the band, like the Island of Misfit Toys, whatever that fucking movie is, that Christmas movie.
Toy Story.
So dysfunctional.
Yeah. And with all that being said, this has been Charlie's Corner. And so one thing you guys just made me think of as we're ranting about Raw and how it's its worst written version of itself ever. We talked a little earlier about AEW Dynamite and how awesome it is that we get to see the matches that are coming up next week. Thinking back to the late 90s when the Attitude Era was booming, I remember getting excited to watch Monday Night Raw because at the end of every episode, they would leave you hanging with whatever Stone Cold was about to do to get back at Vince McMahon, or certain story would kind of be left out, like, we'll find out next week. And next week, you would find out. There was always consistency, and storylines flowed from one week to the next. It's not rocket like they try and recreate these things, but that's the one thing they keep missing, and that's what continues to make Dynamite so awesome.
I can tell you exactly why they don't have that anymore and where they got that from. Because I watched it in college. When I was in college, I used to watch a lot of Mid-South. So I went to college down south, and that's from Cowboy Bill Watts and JR. Every week, they would end that hour show just like Raw on a cliffhanger, like, we gotta go. We'll see you next week, folks. We'll give you what's going on. And that's exactly the same formula JR carried into Raw for all those years. And that's the same shit that they were doing on Mid-South that made it so good every week. It's Raw is just a souped up, at that time, it was just a souped up version of Mid-South, because Mid-South was, it was like your hour long show that came on at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. And every week they would leave that show with a cliffhanger, like, I gotta watch next week to see what's going on. And Raw,
that's what it's all about.
Raw took that formula. Yep, you got to bring a reason to bring them back, and they don't. You're right, Matt. They don't have that at all anymore.
Nope,
at all.
It's unfortunate, but
which is literally, not only do the wrestlers have to sell in the ring, but the writers have to sell the product for the announcers to sell it too. Everybody's got to be selling.
Yeah, they're not wrestling fans. They don't know.
They don't get it, eh?
I don't believe. I don't know. I don't believe they know the history. I don't think they have wrestlers writing the show. They have wrestlers, I think, booking and producing matches.
Yeah.
But I don't think they have them like laying out the show and and doing stuff like that. Because I guess, I think I heard on AEW, QT does a lot of the show layout. I can't remember who I heard, but I know QT's involved with it, with laying out the show and how the show goes and stuff like that. And so they got wrestlers working. I think Jerry Lynn does a lot too, because Jerry Lynn was at TNA the Impact show last night.
Does anybody know Bruce Pritchard's role on Raw?
I think he's like the executive
The
producer.
producer,
but
yeah. So he's
Man.
not probably in the deep. He's probably high level laying the show out. But
Man,
he was never. I mean, he's one of Vince's boys. But Pritchard, and he was never really that entertaining. He was part of WWE when they were doing all the stupid shit like the Red Rooster and all that stuff. He's no booking wizard, dude. He's nothing magical. He's just a good yes man for
and there's
dude.
Yes, exactly. And there's no evidence that anything good is coming out of him for Raw, because Raw is just terrible.
I think he probably had more misses than hits in his career.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting?
He's a loyalist.
So
yeah, totally.
Clearly, Raw is a train wreck, and we know Bruce Pritchard's kind of sort of running the show, supposedly.
Yep.
But then you look over at SmackDown. Bruce Pritchard is also responsible for SmackDown.
Yeah.
And they're like two completely
better
different
shows
written by different people.
Yeah. That is weird. Like, how can the same company with the same guy like kind of calling the shots have a god awful show and then it's not our cup of tea, but SmackDown's not a bad show by any means.
Sure.
Sounds like there's a lot of lost in translation between Raw and SmackDown. But what isn't lost in translation is Penta, Cierro, Mero with his translator.
Oh my God!
That's my second favorite guy in the business.
A little okay. Not too long ago. If you listen to maybe 2 episodes back,
you called it.
Kayfabe, I said this guy is like my new favorite guy, and
That's
I don't
great.
want to. I know he's got a name, but I don't want to know his name. I want to know him as just Penta's translator.
Voice, just the voice. Yep.
Oh, he
Just
was
give him-
so good last week.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is. I
gotta
have
watch now. Might watch after this.
I have a critique. I am not feeling this guy as much anymore.
Oh my goodness! Why?
Yes, I will tell you why. I like him as this translator. Let Penta do his thing, and I like him just sitting there as just the wingman. Don't do shit. Wait for your time to talk to translate. That's your job. Do the facials, get pumped up, say it with emphasis. That's why I loved it. Now they're kind of making him like into a role figure. And I don't know this guy's name. I don't want to know another manager in AEW. There's literally a million managers. If he was just the AEW Penta, or like the Spanish announcer, but Penta's translator, and just like outside the ring giving like, just some little, fist pumps at the good times, and then like the head shakes during the bad times, the crazy eyes, just keep it like that. That's awesome. But when he starts pulling legs and interfering with the match, that's where I kind of have a problem right now. And you know what he did on last week's episode of Dynamite? He used the microphone to clock who was Penta wrestling. It was a good match.
Was it a Trent? Question mark?
Yes. And good call, Steve, on the question mark. Trent? He interfered. So this is like, I felt like Matt Michelson hating Don Callis, because Don Callis did the same thing to get Kenny Omega the victory over Jon Moxley. So do I hate my new favorite character? It was just too soon. Like I was just warming up to loving this guy, and now he's becoming like a pivotal figure, and I don't want to know him like that.
Mike, I just unpack this a little bit. I think what's really happening here is
a lot of emotion. I need some therapy, goddamn.
Oh, it is. And so I'm going to give it to you. So I think what's happening here is you're starting to hate the translator for the exact same reasons I hate Don Callis, and you don't want to hate the translator because then by association you would have to hate Don Callis, and you don't want to hate Don Callis. So
no,
I totally get where you're coming from, though. I agree.
Kind of different.
This guy they need to pull the reins back a little bit on this guy as more of a manager and keep him more as a translator. Now, the facial expressions and stuff like that, awesome. Keep it, but don't put him too much in the forefront of things because he's going to
Right.
overshadow Pentagon.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and in this last match, like mid-match, he's like, "Oh, by the way, Trent, Penta told me something before the match. He's gonna beat your ass, and he says your mom sucks," or something like real cheesy. Whatever. Fine. Even that's a little too much for me. I just kind of like him doing the camera work, and because he just kind of looks like a standard guy. If you're a manager, I kind of want a manager that has something that Jimmy Hart has, or the Slickster, or he's just out there. And now he's getting involved. God, I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting a little too worked up. Hopefully they pull it back a little bit, like you said, Matt, but I'm a little rattled. I've got mixed feelings right now.
The only
Clearly.
the only thing I can see coming up in the next couple of weeks is one of two things. Either I grow to love Don Callis or you grow to hate Don Callis based on this conversation. We'll see what happens.
I'm never hating Don Callis. I'm never hating Don Callis. Ever.
It's pretty entertaining.
No, I think Matt, you've taken 2 + 2 and come up with Z. I mean, this is not comparable.
It looks like a 2.
No.
Close enough.
All right. I just don't want this guy pulling legs. And you know whose legs got pulled? The Elite. They were cutting a promo in their private trailer. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, our boy Don Callis. And who comes and rams the trailer? Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. This was a big spot. I don't know if you guys caught this, but it was pretty crazy. John and Eddie are getting pretty friendly. They got a little something going. 2 guys from the street doing street things, fucking up some trailers. The Elite were not harmed in this. They somehow vanished once the truck plowed into the trailer. But I don't know if you caught this, Steve. Did you see how Jon Moxley threw that pipe through the window on the exit? I mean, somebody could have died. Thank God.
That was pretty vicious. Yeah.
Okay. Hats off to Jon Moxley for executing that throw on live television, because it couldn't have been more perfect. It was like a javelin throw. Thank God the trailer was cleared. Maybe somebody was in there, or I don't know if they were trying to get a different camera angle or whatever, but somebody could have died. That was crazy. But John and Eddie, what do you guys think? Do you like this pairing, or is it just a little too much? Does anybody got some feelings on this?
No, I think it's an awesome pairing. Jon Moxley has done a lot of really great stuff, but at the same time, I feel like he was kind of getting to a point where he needed something new, something fresh. And Eddie Kingston can only absorb so many losses. And I think he had lost quite a few matches, or just been put in a lot of really bad spots for him. Where anything different, he would have started getting 50-50'd, which if WWE's taught us anything, that would have been even worse. So I think putting these two together is a great idea, especially for right now. It's working. It's leading to some great spots. I mean, this whole gang warfare thing with all these factions in AEW, quite frankly, I think is starting to get a little over the top. At the same time, though, if Jon Moxley was just on his own floating around in a sea of factions, I think it just, he couldn't get over in any way. Like there's no practical way that he could get an upper hand over some other faction. So I think him pairing up with Eddie Kingston is a good thing. I think these two work well together. I actually did see a clip of this on AEW's Instagram, which ironically, I want to say is controlled in some way by Kenny Omega, because the Instagram post was, they literally took Eddie Kingston, Jon Moxley in this pickup truck. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but they're in the truck and they're rolling up just before they ram the trailer. And they play the intro music to Mario Kart, and there's a 3 count, and it's the sound effects from Mario Kart. And then they smash into the trailer. It's all the same sound effects. Like clearly someone who's really into video games put this together. Makes me think Kenny Omega, Aubrey Edwards.
Probably, yeah.
Like that. But regardless, pretty entertaining. Mike, to answer your initial question after that long-winded rant, yes, I like these two together. I think they should stick it out for a little while longer.
Yeah, we'll probably see a little blood and guts matchup against the Elite. Who they're going to wrestle, not too sure yet. Could be the Young Bucks. Let's see. Does anybody have anything else from AEW that you want to cover?
The Young Bucks wrestling with legitimately, what was that this week or the week before? The
10,000.
Dior. The $10,000 boots that, as far as we can tell, were actually that.
Oh, they're legit, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Was that the week before?
The week before
Yeah.
they had the $10,000
Yeah,
Nikes.
but still,
yeah.
they were just full on embracing this heel persona.
Oh yeah, that's
pretty
it.
great.
That's the shit
Yeah.
they were doing in New Japan.
So,
Yeah.
so I heard something about this, but I guess what's the story behind this? Like, I heard they had some really expensive shoes on, but like, where did this
2
come
weeks
from?
ago.
Yeah, they're just Jordan Dior, some special rare. Only so many made. I mean, if I'm, I don't know if you know much about sneakers and the sneakerhead culture where people are collecting and buying shoes and then they sell them on the secondary market for whatever, it's the whole supply and demand, they only make so many and it's hard to get and people will buy them, if you can afford them, and they were just designed by Christian Dior,
And most
yeah.
people would never take them out of the box. They would keep them in a case. They would put
Yeah.
lights around
These
it
guys
in
are
their
wrestling it
freaking
up.
house.
Actually
And
wrestling.
they're playing,
Yeah. Yeah.
doing
Like-
super kicks for 40 minutes on
Yeah.
that opening match.
And I'm sure but that's the nice part about having a business like that. I'm sure they write those off as a business expense, which is nice.
Uniforms.
Yep, uniforms. Yep, it'd be nice not to have to pay for that out of pocket if you're into Jordans. I think those guys are into those Jordans. If you notice, they wear a lot of Jordans, and Jordans have made a huge comeback, especially the retro ones since like the last Bull series, the 10-part Bull series, the Last Dance. So Jordans are super. I mean, they've always been popular, but they're like super popular again now.
People used to get murdered for those things.
No,
They would only
sure.
make like 300 back in the
Yeah.
90s. And remember, Jordan caught like a lot of heat to be like, hey, maybe you should stop. People are getting killed. And he's like,
I'm not my problem. I'm making money.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Mike was about it. It's not my problem.
He redeemed himself. He did something good during COVID, didn't he? What did he do?
A little bit.
He donated like
a little bit, but Mike's
money.
he's never been too political or took a stand too much. He like Jordan. I mean, his famous line back then is that Republicans buy Jordans buy sneakers too. So he wasn't going to offend 50% of his of his base, man. If you know Michael Jordan,
his color is green.
Yep, exactly. He was not going to do anything offensive to mess up his image.
Well, whatever he did, good to the cause during COVID.
Yeah,
I'm just glad it didn't wind up on the.
Yeah.
I'm just glad it didn't wind up on the blackjack table. Have you guys ever heard about his country club?
No, I don't know.
Listen to this. Listen to this. So I listen to a lot of hockey podcasts, and one of my boys, Kevin Hayes, he plays for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's from Boston, but I think he's like tight with Tom Brady or some guys who are on the Patriots Super Bowl teams. Michael Jordan has a country club, and it sounds like oh shit, I hate to compare it, but the Neverland Ranch without the child molestation. It's kind of like a free-for-all dreamland for the ultra rich. So picture this.
Yeah.
You are only invited, obviously it's gated. You're only invited to this club. You get an access, and there's a 2-mile driveway to the country club off of this road. So not only is it way off the beaten path, you drive 2 miles, and why it's 2 miles is everybody who goes there has like a Bugatti, a Lamborghini, these freaking ultra fast cars. So people are rolling up there at 220 miles a fucking hour. Talk about setting the tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you go into the locker room, and they have the GOAT like locker aisle. It's Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Joe like all the biggest, the greatest champions of all. They're all just sitting next to each other. So imagine, you're lacing up your golf shoes, and you look to your right and be like, hey, I got 7 Super Bowl rings, but here's Wayne Gretzky, 99, got over 1,000 points. Fuck. I mean, that's got to be great. So then you go on to the golf course. I mean, these golf carts go 40 miles an hour. I think you got to buckle up, but obviously at MJ's pad, you don't have to. If you're out at the 7th green and you want cocktails, they bring it out on a drone. So they hook your drinks up like, hey, I need a bottle of Grey Goose, blah, blah, blah. It's on a drone, and it's delivered right to you. Sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a whole different world that we don't know about,
Oh my God, it's a level of rich that God, I don't know. I don't know if I would ever want to know it. And then not to mention he sets his own rules out there. He's known to do all the gambling. So he's probably, doing what kind of fucking props out there.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just out of control.
Well, so I'm going to make this promise on behalf of all of us here at Keep the Kayfabe to our listeners. If you become the 1 millionth subscriber to Keep the Kayfabe, you will automatically be lumped with this group when we try to attend Michael Jordan's private golf club. So
You will be
1
in
million
our
subscribers.
aisle.
So make sure you go on and subscribe today. Millionth subscriber gets to come along.
And speaking of subscribers, we got a pretty awesome promo of the week. After last week's segment, we got our inbox rushed with great promos, but this one comes from Ted from Orlando. He sent us one from 1992 Royal Rumble. Ric Flair celebrates his victory of the Royal Rumble, one of the all-time classics. He's there with Mean Gene, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig in the back. Let's take a listen.
All right, by virtue of winning the Royal Rumble, we have a brand new World Wrestling Federation champion as the press watches on. At this time, to present the title belt to the new champion, our president, the distinguished Jack Tunney.
Congratulations, Ric Flair, on becoming the undisputed champion of the World Wrestling Federation.
Let me just say, after Vera distorting the belt to proclaim me the real world champion, I'm going to tell you all, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one. And this is the only title in the wrestling world that makes you number one. When you are the king of the WWE, you rule the world. Think about it like that, Mr. Perfect.
Guys,
the
are on
brain. Woo! Woo! Let's give a big one. Woo! You did it. I was never so impressed with anything I've ever seen in all my life. He went out there for over 60 minutes, never took a back step, took it to Hogan, took it to The Undertaker, took it to whoever got in that ring. That's why he is,
hey, Bobby,
called now, the real world's heavyweight champion.
We're not the kind of guys to say, we told you so, but we told you so. Okay, very good. Ric Flair, you have made put that cigarette out. You have made World Wrestling Federation history here tonight.
It's the greatest moment of my life. I want to jump. I want to party. But I got to tell you like this. For the Hulk Hogans and the Macho Mans and the Pipers and the Sids, now it's Ric Flair. And y'all pay homage to the man. Woo! I love it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up. We hope you have enjoyed your Royal Rumble.
And there you have it from one of the all-time greatest. Thanks, Ted. That's one of the best. You got great taste, and there's nobody like Rick.
God,
you gotta love it.
Best Royal Rumble ever.
Woo! The
gets
best.
me every time.
Keep them coming, folks. If you want to hear your favorite promo played on Keep the Kayfabe, send it to Keep the Kayfabe on Instagram or Facebook. So thank you so much for listening. Boys, this has been a really, really fun week chatting with you all. Stay tuned for next week because we're going to break down Dark Side of the Ring, give you a preview of the upcoming season dropping May 8th. And I cannot wait for it. So make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And remember, stay hard, stay hungry, stay humble.
Triple H.
Woo!
One of these days, I'll come up with a good order for that. Like firm.
Love it.
Firm.
Here comes Johnny singing oldies goldies. He probably knew that baby what I say. Here comes Johnny singing I got a woman down in the tunnel trying to make it pay. He got the action, he got the motion. Oh yeah, the boy can play. Dedication, devotion, turning all the nighttime into the day. Sing a song about a sweet love. walk the line. Yeah.